Welcome to Part 3 of Project Management MCQs focused on cost management, aligned with the PMBOK 7th edition. This part focuses on forecasting traps, ethical reporting, and integrated risk-cost modeling. Question 41. A project at 50% completion has a CPI of 0.78 and an SPI of 0.81. The sponsor insists that the delay is causing a cost overrun. What is most accurate? The most accurate statement is B. Both inefficiencies exist independently. Since both CPI and SPI are less than 1, they indicate separate inefficiencies. Correlation does not imply causation. Question 42. Monte Carlo simulation shows an 80% probability of schedule delay, but only a 40% probability of cost overrun. What is the interpretation? The correct interpretation is B. Schedule risk is higher than cost exposure. This comparison highlights the difference in risk exposure between time and cost. Question 43. Late in a project, the CPI improves, but the EAC continues to rise. Why is this happening? The reason is AAC is increasing faster than EV growth. Even with an improving CPI, it may not offset the cumulative overruns that are affecting the EAC. Question 44. In a hybrid project, the predictive infrastructure work overruns the budget, while the agile software work remains within sprint budgets. What is the primary governance challenge? The primary challenge is A. Unified cost baseline integration. Managing different cost approaches across predictive and agile components requires a unified baseline. Question 45. A sponsor pressures you to report a CPI of 0.98 instead of 0.92 to maintain confidence. What is the PMI aligned response? The aligned response is B. Report transparently and explain corrective actions. The PMI Code of Ethics mandates accurate and honest reporting. Question 46. If TCPI EAC equals 1.12 while CPI equals 0.85, what is the most realistic interpretation? The most realistic interpretation is A. Required efficiency is unlikely achievable. The required future efficiency of 1.12 far exceeds the current achieved efficiency of 0.85, indicating a feasibility gap. Question 47. An approved scope reduction decreases the BAC, but the AC remains high. What is the immediate impact? The immediate impact is B. Cost variance, or CV, may worsen. Reducing the BAC while AC is high will likely increase the apparent cost variance. Question 48. Earned schedule shows severe time variance, while schedule variance is small. What does this reveal? This reveals A. Time-based metrics are more sensitive late in the project. Earned schedule is better at reflecting severe delays after the project's planned completion date. Question 49. If actual cost, or AC, grows exponentially while earned value, or EV, grows linearly, what is the long-term impact? The long-term impact is C. Severe cost overrun is likely. Exponential growth in AC relative to linear EV growth points to a dangerous forecasting trend. Question 50. A project with a high merge bias shows no cost variance yet. What is the strategic risk? The strategic risk is A. Hidden future cost escalation. Merge bias suggests highly uncertain paths, which often lead to cost surprises when risks materialize. Question 51. Management reserve is used to correct poor estimation rather than address unknown risk. What is the governance issue? The governance issue is B. Reserve misuse. Management reserve is intended for unknown risks, not for correcting poor initial planning or known risks. Question 52. In extreme forecasting, CPI multiplied by SPI is used for EAC when? The CPI multiplied by SPI formula is used when C, cost and schedule inefficiencies are both expected to continue. This model assumes that past performance is the best indicator of future combined performance. Question 53. A project reports a positive cost variance but a negative cash flow. What is the most likely scenario? The most likely scenario is A. Revenue delayed. Positive cost variance means the project is technically under budget, but cash flow problems suggest delayed payments or financial issues unrelated to project efficiency. Question 54. A contract change shifts risk from the seller to the buyer mid-project. What is the cost implication? The cost implication is B. Buyer exposure increases. By accepting more risk, The buyer takes on the financial consequence if that risk materializes, increasing their potential cost exposure. Question 55. At 95% completion, the CPI is consistently 0.65. What is the best forecasting approach? The best forecasting approach is C, bottom-up estimate to complete, or etc. When a project is near completion, the remaining work should be re-estimated manually rather than relying on historical indexes. Question 56. If TCPI BAC significantly exceeds 1.3 while the sponsor refuses a budget increase, what is the most realistic conclusion? The most realistic conclusion is B. The budget target is unrealistic. A TCPI above 1.3 suggests that achieving the original budget is virtually impossible without aggressive scope or quality cuts. Question 57. A risk materializes, requiring the use of contingency reserve, yet the CPI is unchanged. Why? The CPI remains unchanged because AEV is adjusted proportionally. When a known risk occurs, the baseline is often updated, and both EV and AC increase, often maintaining the CPI ratio. Question 58. An agile release increases velocity but disproportionately increases sprint cost. What is the strategic concern? The strategic concern is C, unsustainable cost efficiency. If velocity is only achieved by overspending, the rate of work is not economically viable for future sprints. Question 59. If EAC decreases after a minor CPI improvement, what must the project manager verify? The project manager must verify A, forecast formula consistency. A small CPI improvement should not lead to a large EAC drop unless the forecasting methodology itself has changed or contains an error. Question 60. A project consistently meets the schedule but consumes float and management reserve. What is the long-term cost risk? The long-term cost risk is B, hidden exposure to unknown risks. Consuming reserves means there is no remaining buffer for future unknown issues, increasing cost fragility. Thank you for completing Cost Management, Part 3. If these questions challenged you, you're now thinking at an advanced governance level. Comment your score, like the video, and subscribe for Part 4.